Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to get through this whole entire review so you guys can use this to help you to study for the test if you need it. So we're going to start with, it says you need to be able to factor a quadratic expression using a method of your choosing. So you can factor however you want to factor. I'm going to show you guys the way I did it in class. So we're always going to see if we can factor out a GCF first. So we can't in this problem. So we're going to go straight into here. And we know the top is going to be A times C, which is just going to be negative 18. And we know the bottom is always going to be our B value, which is negative 7. So we need numbers that multiply to give you negative 18, but add to give you negative 7. So those numbers are going to be negative 9 and positive 2. We're going to use those to rewrite this middle term. So it's going to be x squared minus 9x plus 2x minus 18. Then we're going to group together our first two, group together our last two, and we're factoring out a GCF from both of those parentheses. So between x squared and 9x, we just have x, and then we're going to leave x minus 9. Between 2x and negative 18, we have a positive 2, and that's going to leave us with x minus 9. Then we're going to bring down what they have in front. Remember, it has to completely match what they have inside. It does, so we can bring that down. And this would be our factors. Now, anytime that your A value is 1, like it is in this problem, the factors that you get here are going to directly correlate to the factors you have here. So we had negative 9, so x minus 9, positive 2, x plus 2. Now, that idea does not hold true, though, when you have a leading coefficient that's not 1, like the next one. So first we're going to look and we're going to say, okay, can we factor out a GCF? No, we can't. So we're going to go straight into this. A times C on the top, 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. B on the bottom, which is negative 5. So I need numbers that multiply to give me negative 24, but add to give me negative 5. Obviously, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. The bigger one is going to need to be the negative number. So it's going to end up being negative 8 and positive 3. We're going to rewrite those, and so it's going to be 4x squared minus 8x plus 3x minus 6. Group together your first two, group together your last two. Between 4x squared and 8x, I can pull out a 4x, and that's going to leave me with x minus 2. Between 3x and negative 6, I can pull out a plus 3, and that's going to leave me with x minus 2. We're going to pull down what we have here, 4x plus 3. We're going to pull down what they have in common, and that is going to be our final answer. All right, next one says factor an expression using difference of squares. So difference of squares is a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b, a minus b. All right, so basically this is any time that you want to factor a binomial, so just two terms, and those two terms are made up of perfect squares. So if you look at this one, all right, x can be rewritten as x and x. 49 can be rewritten as 7 and 7. All right, that means that if I use this formula, my A value is x and my B value is 7. So I'm going to fill out, and it's going to be x plus 7, x minus 7. If you had factored using the x, you would have done the same thing. It just would have been numbers that multiply to give you negative 49, but add to give you 0x. And so that would have worked out too. Now, the second one, all right, really shows you how difference of squares works, because now you have two different variables that you're trying to factor. So always start with factoring out a GCF. So between 20 and 80, I can factor out a 20, and I'm going to be left with x squared minus 4y squared. X squared, 4, and y squared, those are all perfect squares, and it's a subtraction sign. So I know I'm thinking about difference of squares, so I'm going to break this down. This is going to be x times x gives me x squared. This is going to be 2y times 2y is what gives me 4y squared. So if I take that and I plug it into this formula, it's just going to be our GCF 20, x plus 2y, x minus 2y. And that would be factoring using difference of squares. Okay, next one. It says use the completing the square with quadratic equations and expressions. So if we want to complete the square, all right, remember you're going to section off your first two terms. Your a value has to be 1. So that's kind of the big thing. So on this first one, your a value is 1. So we're going to rewrite it as x squared minus 8x plus blank. That's going to be in parentheses because that's where we're going to do all our work. And we're going to have that minus 14 on the other side. Once you're set up like this and your a value is 1, you can start to complete the square. So to complete the square, your b value is negative 8, which means your b over 2 is equal to negative 4. And then we need to square that to get this term here. So when we square that, we're going to get a 16 here. Remember, when you complete the square, you cannot change the value of the equation. So if I add 16 inside the parentheses, I need to subtract 16 on the outside of the parentheses so that everything stays even. All right, now to write it in vertex form, all right, so to finish completing the square, you are going to take this and you're going to factor it. When you factor it, you're going to get that it's your b over 2 value is what your factors are. So it's going to end up being x minus 4 squared. This and this gives us minus 30. So this is how you would complete the square for that problem. All right, if we look at the next one, we would rewrite 3x squared minus 12x plus blank, that's in parentheses, minus 19. Okay, we cannot start completing the square yet. You cannot say that b value is 12 and half of 12 is 6 and that's no, because your a value is not 1. You cannot complete the square if your a value isn't 1. So we're going to start by factoring out a 3. That's going to leave us with x squared minus 4x plus blank. And then we don't factor it out from here because this isn't inside the parentheses. So that's just going to stay minus 19. Now we can complete the square. Our b value is negative 4. b over 2 is negative 2. Square that, we get positive 4. Now, you did not just add 4. You added 3 times 4. So you added 12, which means you need to subtract 12 on the outside. That's a big thing that people mess up on a lot. So really make sure you're paying attention. This one didn't have anything out in front, so plus 16 minus 16. This one is 3 times 4, so we're going to take that out on the back side. So now when we factor, it's going to end up being 3x minus 2 squared, because that's our b over 2 value. And then if we combine these two together, that's going to be negative 31. That would be your completing the square. We've been completing the square for weeks, so I would be absolutely shocked if there wasn't at least a couple questions on it. So really make sure that you guys know how that process works, especially when you have to factor out something in front. All right, next thing, if you are going to convert between standard to vertex or vertex to standard, all right, when you go from standard to vertex, you are going to complete the square. All right, that's how you get from one to the other. If you go from vertex to standard, you're just going to multiply. Okay, so this one, standard to vertex. This is exactly what we just did on these last two. So you're going to start and you're going to say, okay, this is x squared plus 4x plus blank plus 9 on the outside. My b value is 4. My b over 2 is 2. I'm going to square that, and that's what goes here. So I just added 4, so I need to subtract 4. When you factor this, again, you're going to get this term. So you're going to get x plus 2 squared plus 5. Now you're in vertex form. So that is standard to vertex. So we started in standard, we ended in vertex. Now we're going to start in vertex and we're going to end in standard. So if you're going to do that, you're going to start by multiplying out this right here. So if I'm going to multiply that out, I'm going to do x minus 3, x minus 3. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Negative 3x. And a negative times a negative is a positive 9. Not a positive 6. You guys like to do that, so positive 9. Really make sure when you're doing this stuff that you're paying attention. All right, don't lose points on silly stuff when you know how to do the hard stuff. So, let's rewrite what we have. We have 2 times x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 8. So just rewriting this as what we got when we multiplied it out. Now I'm going to take that 2 and I'm going to distribute it because you need to follow order of operations. So you're going to have 2x squared minus 12x plus 18 minus 8. And then these two right here, you're going to combine together. So we're going to get 2x squared minus 12x plus 10. All right, last one we're going to do in this video is talking about just understanding what all the transformations are that can happen. So I don't know if you'd be asked to graph them or label them or whatever, or write an equation based on them, but you need to know that when you're in vertex form, okay, it's y equals a x minus h squared plus k. Your a value is gonna do reflections and stretches and compressions. So this 2 right here, because it's greater than 1, that's going to be a vertical stretch by 2. So it's gonna take that parabola and it's gonna stretch it out vertically, all right? Your h value moves you left and right and it's always opposite. So minus 3 is gonna move us right 3. And then your k value at the end moves you up and down. So minus 8 is going to move us down 8. All right, so that one has 3 transformations. This next one, this minus 1/2 is telling us 2 things. The minus is telling us that we have a reflection, okay, across which axis? So it's going to take it from being concave up to flip it and be concave down. So that's going to be over the x-axis. Then this 1/2 right here is going to be a vertical compression by 1/2. All right, which means it's gonna get squashed down, it's gonna get shorter, it's gonna get fatter. And then this plus 4, again, is opposite. So this is going to move us left 4. All right, if you need help with that next page, make sure you guys are hopping on so you can see what happens on that next one.